Democratic Congresswoman Karen Bass from California, who serves on the House Judiciary Committee, so she knows what she's talking about here. I'm going to ask you, Congresswoman, good to see you. What are your next steps?
Well, bright and early on Monday morning, we're going to have a hearing, and that hearing is going to involve a presentation from the Intelligence Committee about their findings. So we will be examining the evidence. Yesterday, we were looking at the Constitution, the framers, what they had in mind, but on Monday, we'll be actually looking at the evidence. And I think we'll probably do that for a couple of days, and then we'll take it from there. Whether we get to writing articles or not, we'll take it one step at a time.
All right, let's talk about the question, the discussion that is ongoing about whether or not or why or not to include elements from the Mueller report into the report. And I just want to read you from the Wall Street Journal reporting about Representative Alyssa Slotkin from Michigan, a Democrat, who said, your colleague, who said she hadn't decided how to vote on impeachment, but would oppose a kitchen sink approach that included Mr. Mueller's findings. What do you think of that, and what's your take?
Well, I know that that's the debate that we're going to have. I would agree with her in terms of opposing a kitchen sink approach. The question is whether or not including the obstruction of justice amounts to that. There's so many examples of wrongdoing from this president. I do think it's really important that we're focused, that it's clear, that it's easiest to understand. And so we will have to make the decision. Do we just look at abuse of power? Do we look at the examples of obstruction of justice and determine it from there? That will be the discussions that will take place next week.
You heard my conversation, I think, with Jeff Rosen talking about Professor Turley and the case that he was making for the Republicans. What did you think of it?
Well, actually, I was kind of surprised by the professor. I thought that they would have had a much stronger witness, because part of what he was saying as well is that he wasn't saying that the president shouldn't be impeached. He just said we don't have enough information and we need to wait. Now, what is ironic about that, and I know you know this very well, it's the president that's stopping us from having any of the information. So what about obstruction of Congress? I mean, that's something that we're going to have to look at. You remember when Ambassador Sondland from the EU testified a couple of weeks ago? He was testifying from his memory. Now, he is still an ambassador, but the State Department won't allow him to look at any of his notes. So you have the president that doesn't even want former employees to testify before Congress. That's why we had to take the whole McGahn situation to the courts. And then, you know, you have John Bolton. Well, if he wants to come forward, he could come forward. For whatever reason, he's teasing all of us with tweets. Maybe it's because he's trying to drive up the amount of money he's going to make for his book. But I feel a tremendous sense of urgency, because the difference, the fundamental difference for me, is that the Mueller report was about the 2016 election. What happened with Ukraine is about the 2020 election. And we need to do everything we can to stop the president from intervening in the next presidential election.
What's your thinking on timing? You said you will take this as it unfolds. You'll start to write the articles of impeachment as you get the necessary information. Is there some timeline about doing this before Christmas that you're aware of or conscious of?
We do not have a rigid timeline, but if I had to make the best guess, I would say before the end of the year. The question is whether it's before Christmas or after.
Congresswoman Karen Bass, thank you for joining me today. Congresswoman Karen Bass is from California, and she's a member of the Judiciary Committee.